appreciate you being here today. My name is Ray Comiskey, and I want to welcome you to our speaker series today. I think we've got a good one, and it should be informative and entertaining at the same time. It's always a good combination. Our speaker today is Dr. Robin Hanson, who spent thousands of hours studying cemetery culture both in the United States and abroad. Really?
Yeah. Everywhere I go to cemeteries.
Her extensive academic background includes a master's in human relations and anthropology and a PhD from St. Louis University in American Studies, and it provides her the foundation for her expertise in American culture, history, and genealogy. Dr. Hanson has taught at Jefferson College as an adjunct instructor since 2004 in disciplines including history, political science, and sociology. Today, Dr. Hanson will share with us information regarding three historically significant cemeteries in St. Louis: Bellefontaine, Calvary, and what's called the new Mount Sinai. Now, just a little background on these cemeteries. In North St. Louis, two adjacent cemeteries, Bellefontaine and Calvary, offer a tremendous Civil War history. There's no place on earth, really, where more Union and Confederate generals lie and rest in such close proximity. More generals who commanded armies during the Civil War lie in those cemeteries than are buried at Arlington National Cemetery and West Point combined. Bellefontaine Cemetery, founded in St. Louis in 1849, holds many noteworthy individuals including William Clark, Adolphus Busch, Thomas Hart Benton, and William Burroughs. There are several architecturally significant monuments among the 314 acres and more than 86,000 burial sites. Calvary Cemetery, which I have a family connection with and am most familiar with, was founded in 1854 and is the second oldest cemetery of the Archdiocese of St. Louis. It contains the graves of Dred Scott, General William Tecumseh Sherman, playwright Tennessee Williams, and many noted persons identified with the beginning of St. Louis. New Mount Sinai Cemetery, founded in 1850, is the oldest existing Jewish cemetery in St. Louis and one of the oldest existing Jewish cemeteries west of the Mississippi River. Its historical significance and beautifully maintained grounds make it a popular place to visit, and some of the most historically significant members of the St. Louis community lie at rest in the New Mount Sinai Cemetery, including rabbis, cantors, philanthropists, business leaders, political figures, and veterans from every major conflict since the Mexican-American War in 1846. So with that background, would you please help me welcome Dr. Robin Hanson.
Thank you. Hello. Yes. I guess this is on. Is this on? Yes, it's on. You can probably still hear me in the back anyway, because my voice does tend to carry. So, thank you all for coming out today. What a beautiful day. I'm like, yes, it's not so cold anymore. Actually, before we get started, can we lower the lights just a little bit? It'll make it easier to see some of these. Oh, you got to go outside to turn the lights off? Oh, that's better. I think you'll like the color will show better that way. I have just a little bit of kind of background on stained glass and how it got its name, how we started using it in mausoleums, and then we'll go in. I will move through slides pretty quickly because I have like 52 slides of stained glass to show you. But I want to talk some about the symbolisms that we see in the stained glass also. This is not all the stained glass that you can go and see at the mausoleums. Some of the stained glass is difficult to see because it's on the sides or you can't get into the mausoleums. Not a whole lot of people are always trying to get into a mausoleum for the right reasons. But I actually, New Mount Sinai, I helped them write their application for to be on the historic registry. And so they have now told me that any of the mausoleums I want to go in to take pictures in, I will be welcomed. So I'm like, I can't wait for this summer, so I'll be spending a lot of time at New Mount Sinai again. There are tours, sometimes up at Bellefontaine, sorry, not from here. Bellefontaine, where you can go into some of the mausoleums that the cemetery will allow you to do that. So always kind of keep that in mind. But otherwise, you can go to the cemetery, you can walk up to these mausoleums, you can look in. When I'm taking pictures, they've just gotten used to me being there, because I'm out there with all kinds of contraptions to try to block the light and everything, taking pictures, so I look kind of strange out there, but I spend all my time in the cemeteries anyway, so I'm strange to begin with. All right. And I embrace it, so somebody has to. All the slides, all the stained glass that you see here are in our 3 cemeteries here in the city. These are the 3 cemeteries that have the most mausoleums. There are just a handful of other cemeteries that may have 1 or 2 mausoleums in it, but Bellefontaine has the most. New Mount Sinai is second, which a lot of people are really surprised to hear. All of the mausoleums at New Mount Sinai are set back so you don't see them from the road. And then Calvary is the third. When you're going to build a mausoleum, like the Speakerman Mausoleum, most of the mausoleums in these cemeteries were built between 1878 and probably into the 1830s, 1930s at the latest. So these mausoleums, most of the ones that I'm going to show you, the stained glass from these mausoleums, are over 100 years old. And some of them you can start to see the wear and tear on them. Others look as if they're brand new, depending upon how much shelter they have within the mausoleums. But now one of these mausoleums, like this one, when it was built in the 1920s, would have cost well over $400,000 or $500,000. You're talking into the millions now. You can buy a mausoleum. They're actually becoming more vogue. The wealthy are looking at building mausoleums again. They stopped building them in the 1930s because it was a little too audacious. Too much. You were bragging too much about your money during the Depression. So they kind of started tapering off on building mausoleums. Now they're starting to come back. You can get into a mausoleum with like 2 crypts for about $250,000. And then it goes up from there, obviously into the millions. This is Adolphus Bush's. His wife, he married into the Anheuser family. And when they already had a mausoleum, but when he died, his wife didn't think that the original mausoleum was grand enough for her husband, so they tore the old one down and built a new one. And there's some beautiful, beautiful stained glass in this, and I've got a picture of one of them as we go through. But I want to tell you, mausoleum, the name comes from the Persian king Mausolus, who died in 353 AD. He wanted to be remembered for years and years and years after his death, and so he built mausoleums. We start to see mausoleums become more vogue during the Renaissance. Most of the stained glass that you're going to see in mausoleums comes in after 1100 AD. And then we actually move into the 1700s, and it almost completely fades away. They almost lose the artistry of stained glass, because to learn to do stained glass, you really have to, even today, it's an apprenticeship. You don't go to school for it. You go study with an artist, and you learn to do stained glass. It's a very selective, very individualistic type of work. And these are just a couple of examples. These are the ones that are a little more mundane. We're going to get into the end of the 19th century, and you're going to get Tiffany glass. And when we talk about Tiffany glass, we're normally thinking about it where it's in lampshades, or it's in homes, it's in artistry. The very wealthy then brought that Tiffany glass into their mausoleums. The problem with the Tiffany glass in the mausoleums is in the 1970s, an article was written and published about Tiffany stained glass in mausoleums, and they listed all of them throughout the country, because Tiffany keeps a very detailed list of where their stained glass are at that they know about. And somebody went through over a couple of years, took that list and went to every mausoleum in the country and stole the Tiffany stained glass out of the mausoleums. None of them still exist. Most of them, what they understand, have gone overseas or in private art collections. So there's a number of mausoleums out at Bellefontaine that just have clear glass or plexiglass in where the windows were, and those were where the Tiffany. Now I've been told, probably legend, that there are still a couple of Tiffany's in the area, but none of the cemeteries will identify which ones are Tiffany's, because obviously they wouldn't be there very long. I've seen a lot of, just in the last couple of years, vandalism, theft. They'd have bronze doors. The bronze doors would be literally ripped out of the crypts or everything. So it's, I don't understand it, but it does tend to happen. Now, I want to get in, I'll start here with talking about some of the symbolism in the stained glass. This one is from the Levy Mausoleum down in New Mount Sinai, and I find the stained glass is of the roses and everything, and it denotes love. And if they're a darker red, it's of grief and sorrow. But notice somebody thought they'd be, you know, cute, and so they put a vase there. The vase is real. It's sitting out here, and they just have it so that it looks like the flowers are sitting in the vase. Okay, so, but you know, this is one I got to go in to go into the mausoleum, but you know, you don't want to go in and say, oh, here, I want to get a better picture. Can I move the vase out of the way? So the vase is there. Of course, maybe someday I'll Photoshop it out, but not right now. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, this is the Renard. This is a tulip. Again, just any flower that is used in art is always representational of rebirth and spring and everything. So this is in the Renard. I love all the colors, and the colors are just bright. This has been here for 98 years, and the colors are still just so bright. Now some of these, this is stained glass. You can see the panels and the lead that they're using in between the panels. I'll show you some a little later that are actually colored glass, and it's a different form of presentation. This is the Singleton Mausoleum, and this has kind of a lotus motif to it in both the top piece and down here. And a lotus, again, is all about rebirth. Notice here too. Now, what happens is these are family private mausoleums. Well, you know, they're in place for well over 100 years, and they're going to be there for quite a few more hundreds of years. Well, you have family members down the line, grandchildren and great-grandchildren that want to be buried in the mausoleum, and you run out of space. So we're starting to see more cremation urns in the mausoleum so that family members can be in the mausoleums. We had one in New Mount Sinai that the gentleman he had been a slave owner during this, you know, before the Civil War, and he had a house slave who became his house servant after the war, and he had her buried, African American, had her buried in the mausoleum with them because he cared so much for her. Well, you know, you get 40, 50 years down the line and the grandkids, you know, are passing away. Well, they didn't have that same relationship with her. So they took her out of the mausoleum, bought her a lot on the other side of the cemetery, and opened up another spot in the mausoleum. So you just never know what's going to happen down the line. Irises denote faith. And they also are viewed as a guide for the death along their journey. Not sure how they guide, but That is what is associated with it. One of the things that we have really lost today with the cemeteries is that every type of flower, every type of branch, every type of symbol that was used on cemetery headstones had a separate meaning to it. It wasn't, oh, just that's pretty. It carried meaning. And it was especially important early on before everybody was literate. You could still go into the cemetery. You might not be able to read the names or the epitaphs, but when you saw a broken column, you knew that that was somebody who had died young, cut off before their life had been fulfilled. If you saw a cornucopia full of fruit and everything, it meant that that person had lived a full life. You know, and so you had all these various meanings. And that's why there's still, now I can't tell you that every one of these, when they picked a flower, it was because of the meaning it imparted. They may have just picked the flower because they liked it. But generally speaking, there was meaning imparted in it. And one of the flowers that you see the most often in these mausoleums are lilies, because lilies are always associated with death. But it is, the lily actually represents the soul and the innocence of rebirth, going to heaven, and being cleansed. Okay? So these, I just have a few examples of some lilies here. This next one, this is from the Brady Mausoleum. And now on many of these, you're going to see some dark lines behind them. Those are the bars that they've put on there now to try to protect them from being stolen. It kind of messes up the beauty of some of them, but I'd rather see them still there. And you can kind of start to see where, for this one, it's starting to get some wear and tear on it. I've got one that's actually starting to fall a little bit. The weight of it is just pulling it down. More lilies. This one is actually in the Hibbard Mausoleum. This one is in the Lemp Mansion. There's 2 or 3 panels of the lilies in the Lemp Mansion. I was up there one day and I was just walking around and the door was actually open to the mausoleum. I was like, so I had to open it a little bit, and it gave me a little bit better chance to get a good picture. But I didn't go in because I'm like, I'm not invited in. I don't want to be invited in. But it's actually, they have electricity in the mausoleum so that they can heat it. I'm hoping that's for when they were going to have visitors and stuff too, because I'm not sure they need much heat in there. But when I left, I went to the office and let them know that the door was open. They might want to go back and shut it. And when I went out the last time, they actually have like a padlock on it. Apparently the lock is broken, and so they couldn't lock it back up. Let's see, who is this? This is this is Robert D. Lewis's stained glass. And again, see, we're starting to see more of the cremation urns going in so that the family can still be together. This is the Bayard Mausoleum. Again, a lot of the same type of motifs. And during this time, and especially in this area, you're probably going to get maybe only 1 or 2 different artists who are creating the stained glass. So they're going to be similar, but nobody wants, it's like wearing the same dress as somebody else. You don't want to have the same image in your mausoleum, so they're going to change them out. This is the Guggenheim Mausoleum, and if you notice, they've even incorporated the G in the stained glass. But, and I find this interesting because some stained glass are meant to be seen from inside the mausoleum, others from outside. This one is specifically to be seen from outside because the G is backwards inside. So if you're looking at it outside, you see the G. This is the Kincaid Mausoleum. And again, and the 3 lilies, when you see the 3 lilies, it's representational, obviously, of innocence, but also of the Trinity. Okay? Now, moving into talking about the cross. This is at the couples mausoleum. Okay? And the cross always means salvation. But again, too, you're going to see the Trinity and the innocence of the soul in some of these. There'll be several of them where you're going to get a number of different types of symbolism added to it. Let's see. Now, this one, when you see just an empty cross, there's nothing else with it, Christ isn't on it, it's not a crucifix or anything, that normally denotes Protestant. Whereas if you see the crucifixion, it normally means Christ, and it's representational of Christ's sacrifice for people. Okay? This is the Peters. Peters, Huser, and Richter. All three families wanted their names on here. So all three families are on the crypt. With the crown and the kind of like sunbeams coming out of it above the cross, it represents glory. You know, and glory in God. When you have the crown, now this is on the Elliott Mausoleum, and I kind of like it. I mean, you've got some other stuff going on in here. That's why I can't get the bottom of it. But if you look up at the top, you can see I had to take this one from outside, and I'm having to go through the window, and so I'm getting the reflection of the trees behind me when I'm taking the picture. So you get some kind of different stuff going on, and there's one when we get to the menorah that you really see the background behind it. But the cross with the crown in it, the crown represents Christ, and with the cross in the crown, it means that we will get our reward in heaven after the sorrows and the trials and tribulations of life. Again, glory, just simple glory to God, glory in the life ever after. Now, this is Schomburg. This is the one I was talking about. See all the trees back behind there? Now, this isn't reflecting. This is simply through the stained glass. And there's really, I'm going to go out this summer, and what I'll probably do is I'll probably set up some kind of a backdrop behind it so that I can get just the stained glass. But it's a beautiful, beautiful stained glass. And the mausoleum that it's in, the Schomburg Mausoleum, is beautiful. It's a very artistically designed mausoleum, too, in New Mount Sinai.
How large is that?
Oh, that one there, let me see. That one's probably about, gosh, it's almost 4 foot. It's probably about 4 foot square. Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest single stained glass that I've seen in the area here. Yes, sir.
The cross up at the top, the star.
The Star of David.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Star of David. And the Star of David, give me just a second here. It is symbolic. It's they talk about it as the double triangle, and it means the inner and the external connection between God, the Torah, and Israel. And I have an even better depiction of the Star of David here. It is very pretty. And again, it's just like a beautiful sunset or a beautiful sky. Pictures don't do it justice. You've really got to go and see it. We've got one coming up. This is, by the way, the Butler monument or mausoleum. We've got one coming up that every time I see it, I'm just like, oh, that is just, the colors are so rich and it's so beautiful. Here's another one. This one is, the colors are actually starting to fade a little bit on it. Another Star of David. You've got the temple there. Trees will start being depicted. This isn't my best picture of this one, but this is Gabriel writing in the Book of Life. And they're depicting that, they're hoping their name is in the Book of Life and that they will be able to enter into heaven. These next ones are all depictions of angels. This is the one. It just does not do it justice. This is probably the most beautiful stained glass that I've seen in the local area. The colors are so rich. And this one is in New Mount Sinai too, in the wolf. He was, a lot of the big businessmen at the turn of the 20th century in textiles and shoes and stuff. Samuels, Sticks, Bear, and Fuller, they're all buried out here in New Mount Sinai, and Wolfe is in that same realm. So all of these are over 100 years old. And if you'll notice down at the bottom, there's been some damage to the panes. And with that, you're starting to see, because it doesn't have the full structure, you're starting to see it start to sag. And I hope it doesn't go before I go, because it would be very sad to see that, to lose that. Now, the angels, obviously associated with God, but they are viewed as the guardians of the dead. Okay, they look after. And notice again, too, you have the lilies incorporated in this. This is very Egyptian. You get that Egyptian Renaissance in the early 20th century. And so you can kind of tell, too, when these are being built. Another of the kneeling angels. This one is in the Bear, from Sticks, Bear, and Fuller. This is in the Bear Mausoleum, again with the lilies. You're going to see this. This is in memory of his beloved wife. And when you couple the lily with the angel, it is to represent innocence and renewal together. Now we're going to look at Christ and his depictions. This is in the Wenger Mausoleum. Just sits, if you look past the Wenger Mausoleum, you have Adolphus Busch's mausoleum, the big red one back behind it. It's made out of red granite. And he has rest in peace in the Latin. This one is, again, I am the resurrection and the life. This is in the Spiker Mausoleum. Again, you can see the bars in the back, and the paint, a lot of times on the real intricate details, like on the faces and stuff, they have to paint them in because they can't get the stained glass that detailed. And you can see that the paint on the left side has faded out. A lot of these people don't have descendants in the area and stuff, and so upkeep it's the responsibility of the cemetery, and things like this just kind of get passed along the side. This one is not a very good picture, but I wanted to put it in here. This is from the George Taylor Mausoleum, and this is one of the earliest mausoleums there, built in the 1870s. And part of the reason why this one's bad is this one is up at the top, at the back, and you can't get, you're down on the ground having to try to look up to try to get it. I'm still trying to get Bellefontaine, the cemetery administration, to let me in. And so maybe one of these days I'll be able to get them to let me in to get a better picture of this. But it is Christ with the soldiers down below him, the resurrection. This is Nicholas Wall. The black hanging down is a incense burner that they have hanging from the ceiling. And he was a ship's captain on the Mississippi. Beautiful. And this one is really pretty. Look at how, even here, how the blue and the red really are still very, very vibrant. This is a depiction of a very popular painting of Christ by William Holman Hunt. And you actually see this represented in many mausoleums throughout the country, because people really, and I've seen numerous copies of this painting in homes as well. This is the back wall of the Adolphus Busch Mausoleum. On the sides, he has two separate panels on either side also. Those, unless you get in the mausoleum, you can't even really get pictures of. Yes, sir?
Back up one.
Okay.
The shepherd's crook, it's just a little nub that doesn't really continue. Did that mean something?
No, there's no, it's actually his interpretation of the crook. And I know you normally see the big crook and everything, but they're like, I think I'm trying to remember from when I read up on Hunt and his work, is that he interpreted that it wasn't going to take a lot to have you follow Christ, as a shepherd. So you didn't have to go pull them along, that you would go with just a little guidance. In the Cavanero Mausoleum, this is in Calvary. Just as you go in, it's over on the right-hand side. Beautiful, beautiful. I couldn't get this is one I've got to get inside to get a really, really good picture of. But it was beautiful. It was breathtaking just when I saw it. And I was like, oh, I got to have this one. I got to have this one. But again, it's not, I need to get inside to have a better picture of that one. This is in the Lewis Mausoleum. When you go out to the cemeteries, a lot of times you see the mourning woman, mourning as in M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, depicted either standing beside the tomb or up on a pedestal or something. This is the woman mourning the passing of a loved one, but in the stained glass. Now I thought this one was very interesting. This is Eisenstadt Altheimer. And this is in New Mount Sinai. Freemason symbol. The G in the middle stands for God in that he is at the center of the universe. The tools are the Freemason tools for righteousness and steering the right path. This bottom part here has been broken out. And I'm like, what was there? I want to know what was there. So I'm still trying to hunt down information about what might be there. The great thing is New Mount Sinai has all their records from 1848, 1849. And they're all in their safe, in their office, and they'll let me come look at it. So I will be digging around in there here pretty soon. And I'm hopeful that it will either at least tell me who the artist was who did this, so that maybe there's records there, or that maybe there will be an artist rendition or a picture of what that looked like before it was damaged. Because I'm really, really curious to see what other symbolism is in here. The two on the sides, some people have looked at that and said it looks like hands. Like if you had two hands up like this. Now that would make sense here, because it would represent raw life itself. And I'm like, well, that would go in a cemetery. But I had to show you because you can see where this was a painted, and you've got where it's been ripped, been broken, and then it's ripped to the sides. This is one, again, it's just showing the cornucopia. What it's depicting is the life of a man well lived. He's had a good full life. Don't need to be too sad about his passing. Then we get into landscape, the city on the hill. And these landscapes, all water, trees, life itself. This is in the Spink Mausoleum. Let's see, where's this one? This is one of my favorite ones too. But again, it's in a rounded one, a little bit harder to pull in, and actually looks better. And it gives you some of the artistic detail within the mausoleums too. This is in the Ehrlich Mausoleum. Very similar, again, probably the same, one or two of the same artists doing these, so you get a lot of similarities in them. This one was over on the side. It's a really pretty one. Another one that I'm going to have to get inside the mausoleum to take a look at. And then these last 3 or 4, these are the last 5. These are my favorites out of the ones that I've seen here so far. This is in the Marston, and this is painted. And it's just beautiful. If I was rich and had a mausoleum for when I died, something like this would just be, I think I think they're there more for the people before they leave, obviously, hopefully not for when they're there. But it gives you peace looking at these. And I can see that in a mausoleum. It says, then shall thy light break forth as the morning. Thine health shall spring forth speedily, and the righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. And that's Isaiah 58:8. And I thought, that's pretty cool too. It's interesting too. It's painted, but it has the panels on to give it more support. And notice the hourglass and the light for the symbolism too. The hourglass is the passing of time, and the light is to light your way. The pearly gates. The pearly gates. This is in the Fuller from Styx, Bear and Fuller. Styx just has a big, massive monument. He doesn't have a mausoleum. The pearly gates of heaven, a representation of heaven, and the little cherub heads with the wings. That goes back. That is the soul. The cherub head represents the soul on wings, and they're heading into heaven. And actually, with the gate already open, and they're depicted like behind it, their souls have already made it to heaven. Two more. Sailing off into the sunset. Makes me wonder if the family, if they didn't like to go sailing and being out on the water and stuff. That's a beautiful, beautiful depiction. And then a fitting end, the sunset. That's in the Horowitz Mausoleum, and fading off into the sunset. That is all I have. I took a couple more minutes, but I just wanted to share those with you. If you have any questions, comments? Okay, yes, sir?
What would your guess be as to how many hours it takes to make the average?
You know what? I don't know. But I would suspect it's individual. You can get computerized stained glass, but the artists would just, it's not artistic. But I would think, gosh, for the time in the detail and for as large as these are, you have to be talking probably at least a couple of 100 hours of work. I would guess. Yes.
The painted ones, is that later or earlier than the
Earlier. Generally earlier. Here and then here.
The painted ones, know what kind of paint they use?
It's that opalescent. I'm probably saying that wrong. Opalescence. Yeah, and Tiffany and Nagel. There was a Nagel guy. They did the patents for those back in the 1880s, late 1870s, early 1880s.
Where's that Mount Zion located?
New Mount Sinai. It is on Gravois Road between Bayless and Germania. If you know where New Mount, St. Marcus Cemetery, it's just down the road and on the east side from there. Really, really accessible. The office staff there, very, very helpful. They've had the same family has been the caretakers there for 133 years. It just goes down. I think they're on their 5th generation. So they are a wealth of information as well. Did you have a question? Yes.
And I realize a lot of your pictures are from mausoleums around here and everything, but when you think about just the stained glass throughout small churches, USA, the amount of stained
Yeah,
glass.
it's amazing. Well, and what I find amazing is, they have stained glass that's, 1,000 years old that has survived in Europe. And it's remarkable. It's made it through all the various wars, the world wars, and you still have some of this very, very ancient stained glass that has survived that we're lucky to have. I mean, and that same, they'll use the same type of techniques making stained glass today that has been handed down generation to generation to generation. And it is quite a work of art. Yes, sir?
Are families with the kind of resources this represents still doing this?
And it's becoming more popular now. It's becoming more popular. And the mausoleums are getting bigger. Because, out at Bellefontaine, there's a Paramore mausoleum. Now, it's one of the older ones, but they don't make any bones about it. They even have the money sign right there on the door. It's like, we're here because we made our money. And I saw that the other day, and I just thought that was funny. But I didn't bring their stained glass in because it's just a little small one up at the top, just a plain one. And I was like, oh, okay. But even just going out, New Mount Sinai has a tour that you can put, it's on a CD that you can put in your CD player on your car and drive through. Bellefontaine has an app for your phone that will help guide you through and tell you about the cemetery. I'm not sure, Calvary I know has some very nice written up guides to go through. There's different groups that take tours out through the cemeteries and stuff. And the Civil War history that you can glean from these cemeteries is just amazing. I know Dred Scott was mentioned, and they actually snuck him into the cemetery and buried him because at the time he wasn't supposed to be buried in a white cemetery. And his wife isn't buried there. But it's there's so much interesting details in the cemeteries. Thank you again very much. I enjoyed being here.